For this next problem, this is a, what type of figure is this? Item 4-3 is a triangular prism. You are correct. So this figure is a triangular prism. So now how do we solve for the surface area of a triangular prism? Before that, let's determine what are the dimensions. We have 14 meters that you see here. Did you see the 14 meters over here? Ang 14 meters ay yung ito hanggang ito. Yun yung 14 meters na tinutukoy ko. That pertains to the hypotenuse of the obtuse triangle. Look, mga kabala, you can tell that it is a obtuse triangle because ito yun. Look at the base. You see this shape? This represents the base. Remember, the base of the prism is dependent based on the specific shape that you see. Unless they're all rectangles and squares, then the square na lang is the real base. You just have to determine which is the real base. But for the sake of other figures, the base is always the specific shape. Okay? While the rest of the faces are rectangles. Oh, by the way, before that, in a triangular prism, we expect to have how many faces? 5. Why 5? Do you remember this, the formula? If you want to know the number of faces in a prism, number of sides of the polygon plus 2. Remember, just like in a square, you have 2 faces, right? That's why dagdag dalawa, because there are 2 bases that are congruent. And then, get the perimeter of the others, plus that, the number of sides, and that will give you the number of faces. Since it's a quadrilateral, that's why it's 6. For a triangle, there are 2 triangles, and then they form 3 more rectangles. There's 1 rectangle here, 1 rectangle here, and 1 on the bottom. So therefore, you should have 5 faces, 2 triangles, and 3 rectangles. Alright? So yun po ang mangyayari. Now, here's how we solve for the surface area of the triangular prism. That's how we do it. Before that, let's determine what are the measures. Remember that 14 meters is the one from here. Ang 10 meters ay ito. Tapos, the 3.5 meters, ayan, di ba remember ito yung 3.5 meters? Although hindi siya makikita. But 3.5 meters, that is the measure of the short length, which is this one. The base of the rectangle. This one, this one, this one. Or the height. Kasi po, if you were to look at it this perspective, that pertains to the height of the triangular prism. And then 5.5 meters, that's the height. The height of the triangle. So we have a bit of a problem. Because remember, if you want to solve for the surface area of a triangle, we are given the information 14 meters, which is this, 10 meters, which is this. But we don't know the measure of this line. How do we solve for it? That's a good idea. Can we play Pythagorean theorem to help this out? Sure we can. We can always play Pythagorean theorem to solve for the measure of that last angle. Alright? Or we can play the game called SOHCAHTOA. But we can't play SOHCAHTOA here. So we need to base it by the height. So let's play Pythagorean theorem. So I know we're going to do Pythagorean theorem twice. One for the big triangle, which is this one. And one for the small triangle, which is this one. So for the big triangle, to get the measure of the entire base. And then you subtract to this one so that you can get the small base. Yan. Now we're talking. So, ganito kasi mangyayari. Okay, so this is the obtuse triangle that we're talking about. So, ito yung obtuse triangle na tinutukoy ko. Diba, remember, this is 14, this is 10 meters, and the height is 5.5. So, just like what I said, you're going to play Pythagorean theorem twice. Diba? So, how do we play Pythagorean theorem? That's very easy. So, that, diba, remember, just what I said, if you want to get the measure of this, get the measure of the last measure of the obtuse triangle, we play Pythagorean theorem. So, this how we do it. Alright? Huwag na tayo sign yung oras. Kasi nga sign tayo yung oras dyan. So, we play Pythagorean theorem in this method. Going back to our Microsoft Excel, we have the bases that you see here together with the squares. So, ganito yun. Di ba remember, ang 5.5, that's the base, that's the height. Tapos, yung 14, that is the hypotenuse. So, ang ginawa namin dito, square ko yung dalawa. I did it squared, and then that's 196. Tapos, what I did here to get the surface, to get the area, I just subtract the 2. I subtract these two. C minus B to give you, yes, 2.9. Tama ba? To give you 165.75. With that answer that we got, we take the square root of that number, and what did we get? We should get 12.87. Or we can just round it off to 12.8 na lang. 12.89. 12.9. Alright? So yan. So going back to our triangular diagram, we have 12.8 here. Now, remember, this is 10 meters, this is 12.8. So therefore, we know that this one is supposed to be 2.8 meters. Yes. 2.8 meters siya. Fix ko lang ha. Yes, that's 2.8 meters. And then we play Pythagorean theorem again. So that we can get this measure. Alright? So ganito po kasi yung nangyari. Actually, what I did, Koho, I did 12.9 na lang. I rounded it off. So I made it lang 12.9 minus 10 to give you 2.9. And now, we play Pythagorean theorem. We do the squares. So if I were to square this is supposed to be 8.41. And then 30.25. Sinam ko yung dalawa. And you should get something like this. The answer I should get is 38.66. And once I take the square root of that number, di ba remember nakita mo square root of that number? Square root of AM25. So I take the square root of that cell that I choose. What's the answer? I got 6.21, or you can just make that 6.2 na lang. So 6.2 na lang is sagot if I were to round it off to the nearest 10. So going back to the diagram, we should get this measure of 6.2. Yes. Sorry if I cannot write it properly, basta at 6.2, okay? Now we already know the measure of everything. 14, 10, and 6.2. Now we can solve for the surface area. Ganito kasi yung formula sheet ko. So we know that there are 5 faces, so which face did I start off first? Yes, ang ginawa ko ay 10 times 5.5 divided by 2. Yes, because that's the triangle. Remember that the area of a triangle is always base times the height divided by 2. Base times height. So 10 times 5.5 divided by 2. And we should get 27.5. We also get the same answer din, 27.5 din. Because there are 2 faces that are congruent. But look at the last 3. Remember, there are 3 sides that ain't congruent. So we need to solve for the area of each one individually. Remember that 3.5 pertains to the height, right? So therefore, it's supposed to be 10 times 3.5, 14 times 3.5, which is this one. And then, the answer of 6.2 times 3.5. So ganito kasi yung formula ko. So diba remember this is 35? What did I do here? It's 10 times 3.5. Tapos this one, I got 21.7 because of the 6.2 times 3.5. Yes. And last but not least, what did I do? 14 times 3.5. I get 49. With that, I've summed everything up to the last drop. So I click this one. Sinam ko yung cells na to. I click sum. And what's my answer? 160.7 square meters. That is the surface area of the triangular prism. Now for the volume, madali lang talaga yung volume. To solve for the volume, because not like last time, if it were just rectangular prisms or square prisms, you just do length times width times height. But now, when it comes to triangular prisms, you have to do another formula. Or, do you know the general formula of the volume of a prism? It's always get the area of the base times the height. Or to where the dimension is furtherly extended. So therefore, you get the area of the base. Diba remember what's the area of one base? The area of one base is 27.5 as you can see here. Tapos, ang ginawa ko ay ito. We know that our volume is supposed to be 96.25. Paano ko ginawa ko yun? Ito yung ginawa ko. Ang ginawa ko ay 8K26, which is this guy, yung naka-highlight, the 27.5 times the height, which is 3.5. And what's the answer? 96.25 cubic meters. Don't forget to include your units.